My name is Julia Hayes. I'm 33. And I never thought I'd get disinvited from my own sister's wedding. But there I was, sitting in my parents' living room, while my mom looked me dead in the eyes and said, "We all agreed. You're not welcome at the wedding." My hands were still holding the honeymoon itinerary I paid for. If you've ever been blindsided by the people who were supposed to stand by you, especially family, then stick around. This story isn't just about a wedding. It's about betrayal, gaslighting, and what happens when you finally stop staying quiet. Drop a comment if you've been there and hit subscribe. You're not alone. My hands were still warm from clutching. The printed itinerary. The one with all the honeymoon details I'd booked last week. I hadn't even taken off my coat yet. The text Paige sent had said, "Let's meet at Mom and Dad's on Thursday. I want to talk about the wedding. Just us." So I showed up, hoping we'd clear the air. Hoping maybe the silence between us for the past month wasn't what I thought it was. Instead, I walked into the living room to find Mom, Dad, Paige, and Chloe already sitting in a semicircle like it was an intervention. No smiles, no greetings. Just Paige, looking like she hadn't slept, and Chloe pretending to look anywhere but at me. "Sit down, Julia," Mom said. "We need to talk." My stomach twisted. Paige wouldn't look up. Chloe had that quiet smirk she always wore when something messy was happening. But it didn't involve her. Mom didn't waste time. "We've all agreed. You're not welcome at the wedding." She said it so casually, like it was a menu item she didn't like. For a few seconds I thought I misheard her. Or maybe she meant I was being replaced as maid of honor. Not completely uninvited. I looked. At Paige. My little sister. My best friend since we shared bunk beds and secrets about boys. She still wouldn't meet my eyes. "Wait. I'm not what?" "You're not attending," Mom repeated. "Not as maid of honor. Not as a guest. It's just not healthy for Paige." "Not healthy?" I asked, blinking. "What are you talking about? What did I do?" "You're controlling, Julia," Mom said, folding her hands neatly like she was giving a corporate performance review. "You always have to take over. You second-guess every decision. It's exhausting." I turned to Paige again, my voice cracking. "Paige, is this what you want?" She finally looked up. Her eyes were red, but her face stayed still. "I just want peace, Jules. Every time you're involved, things get tense." I felt like the floor had vanished under me. "Tense?" "I've paid for the florist, the photographer, the bridesmaid, robes, the calligrapher. I just booked your entire honeymoon," Mom scoffed, leaning forward. "And that right there, the constant reminding that you've done more, that you've given more. You act like it's generosity, but it's control, Julia. You do things so you can say you did them." I looked at Dad. Nothing. He just sat there. Same blank expression he always wore when Mom was steamrolling someone. He didn't even blink. Chloe finally chimed in, soft and syrupy. "It's nothing personal, Jules, but this day is about Paige, not you." I stood up slowly, still clutching the itinerary in my hand. The room was dead silent, except for the antique wall clock ticking behind me. I could feel something inside me shatter, but I refused to let them see it. "Then cancel the honeymoon," I said quietly. "And good luck finding someone else to walk her down the aisle when all your secrets start falling apart." And I walked out. No tears. Not yet. You don't just end up being the family scapegoat overnight. It's slow. A pattern. Something that wraps around you so quietly, you mistake it for love. Growing up, I was the older one. The planner, the fixer, the mature-for-her-age kid everyone counted on, but no one really celebrated. Paige was the spark, the free spirit, the golden child with her curls and gap-toothed smile and her, "oh, that's just Paige being Paige" excuses. I was 10 when I first noticed it. I came home with a perfect report card. Straight A's. Paige got a participation ribbon in a school art fair. Guess which one got hung on the fridge? When I asked Mom why mine wasn't up there too, she just smiled and said, "You always do well, sweetheart." Paige needs the encouragement. That became the theme of our childhood. When Paige cried, I comforted her. When she messed up, I cleaned it up. When she forgot, I remembered. And Mom? She praised me only when it made her look good. Julia's so responsible. I never have to worry about her. I'm proud of her. Just, she's low maintenance. Dad was always there physically, emotionally, a ghost with a remote and a beer. I moved out at 18, paid for college on scholarships and 3 part-time jobs. While I was pulling night shifts at a diner and writing business papers at 3 a.m., Paige was changing her major for the 3rd time, still living at home, still being told how creative she was, and still calling me at midnight to cry about the same guy who kept ghosting her. And I always picked up, even when I was drowning in deadlines, even when I couldn't afford to. Because she was my sister, because I thought that's what love meant. When Paige finally finished college, 5.5 years later with a degree in art history, I helped her set up her apartment, bought her dishes, paid the deposit on her studio, quietly loaned her $600 for her first month of rent when Mom said, "We've done enough." I never asked for it back. Helping her felt like proof that I mattered, that I was still her person. And when she met James, I was genuinely happy for her. He was kind, smart, actually listened when she talked. The kind of man she hadn't dated before, when she called me screaming with excitement. He proposed, I cried. And when she asked me to be her maid of honor, I said yes before she even finished the sentence. We spent that first weekend binge-watching Say Yes to the Dress, making mood boards, pinning cake designs. She even joked, "You should be the wedding planner. You're better at this than I am." And I laughed, because we were finally in sync again. It felt like maybe, just maybe, all the years of playing second fiddle were behind us. But then, Mom got involved, and everything shifted. Subtly at first, like a crooked picture you don't notice right away. She started showing up to appointments uninvited, overruling choices we'd already made. This venue is too small. That dress washes her out. Chloe should help more. She's family too. Paige started saying things like, "Mom, already booked it," or "She's just really excited." I wanted to believe that. But I could feel the slow erosion, like someone carefully editing me out of my own role. Still, I stayed. I paid the deposit for the photographer Paige fell in love with. I called 6 different florists to find the one that could replicate the bouquet she saw in a magazine. I even started planning their honeymoon behind the scenes. A surprise. Bali, first class. A private villa with white curtains and a plunge pool overlooking the ocean. Because that's what big sisters do, right? We show up. Even when we're being pushed out. Even when it hurts. Even when we start to wonder if anyone would notice if we stopped. The first red flag didn't wave, it whispered. And it sounded a lot like, "Oh, I thought you were too busy to come." That was Paige's text when I asked why she hadn't invited me to the dress fitting. The one she'd been dreaming about since we were kids. The one we used to pretend with blankets and paper veils and whispered someday. She sent a photo, her in a gown I'd never seen before, smiling next to Mom and Chloe. No caption. Just a picture. I stared at it for a long time. I texted her, "You went without me?" Her response came 8 hours later. It wasn't the real appointment. Mom just had a cancellation and we popped in. I promise we'll go again. But we didn't. Instead, Chloe posted a story a few days later. Paige twirling in a second dress, champagne glasses clinking in the background, Mom beaming. The caption read, "She said yes to the dress. Wedding. Ready, Jawr family love." I wasn't. Even tagged, I showed Tyler, my boyfriend, the story that night, voice shaking as I said, maybe it just happened really fast. He looked at me like I was losing it. Julia, they're cutting you out. Bit by bit. I shook my head. No, Paige wouldn't do that. Not on purpose. But it was already happening. I wasn't invited to the venue walkthrough, or the cake, tasting, or the shower planning meeting at Aunt Karen's. When I asked about it, Paige would get quiet. Mom already handled it. Chloe said she'd take care of it. You've got so much on your plate anyway. But they never stopped asking for money. One afternoon, Paige called in a rush, voice low and frazzled. Hey, would you mind covering the balance for the welcome bags? Chloe forgot to budget for them, and Mom said it's too late to change vendors. I wired $600 that day. No thank you text ever came. The bachelorette party, which I assumed I'd be planning, was suddenly announced in a group chat I wasn't even in. Chloe had picked the location. A beach house 3 hours away, full of influencers she followed, and a playlist Paige probably didn't even recognize. When I offered to help or adjust the guest list, it's already booked, Jules. Don't overthink it. But I couldn't help overthinking it. I remembered how Paige used to call me for everything, from choosing outfits to talking her down from panic attacks before exams. How we used to send each other memes and song lyrics and say, I miss you, just because. Now, weeks would go by with nothing but surface-level texts and forwarded invoices. I was paying for a wedding I wasn't part of. Still, I clung to hope. Maybe this was stress. Maybe she was overwhelmed. Maybe Mom was just being Mom. So I kept planning the honeymoon, quietly, perfectly, down to the detail. A 5-night stay at a luxury eco-resort in Bali, private transfers, couples massage, candlelit dinner on the beach. A curated photo album. A note tucked into the final itinerary that read, For my sister, the one who's always been the net that catches everyone else. Now it's your turn to fall in love with yourself. But that note never got delivered, because 2 weeks later, I found out Chloe had been named maid of honor. I wasn't told. I found out from Paige's wedding website, the one I'd helped her design 3 months earlier. Her bridal party bio read, Chloe has been a lifesaver during this process, my rock, my sounding board, my best friend. I couldn't imagine this day without her by my side. No mention of me, not even in the list of bridesmaids. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. I didn't even cry. Not right away. Instead, I called Paige. It rang and rang. She didn't pick up. That was the night I told Tyler. I don't think they want me there at all. I didn't go over to my parents' house expecting a war. I went with hope. Naive, probably. But somewhere inside me, I still believed that if I just talked to Paige alone, really looked her in the eye, she'd snap out of whatever spell Mom had her under. But when I pulled into the driveway, all their cars were already there. My heart sank. I rang the bell. Mom answered with a tight smile. We're in the living room. The room felt cold the second I stepped in. Dad sat stiffly in his chair, flipping through a magazine he wasn't reading. Chloe was on the love seat, her arms folded like this was a deposition. And Paige. Paige was on the couch, back straight, hands in her lap like she was bracing for something. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Hey, I said quietly, can we talk? Before she could answer, Mom cut in, standing like some twisted MC. That's what this is. What is? I asked. She sighed like she pitied me. A chance to clear the air. There have been concerns. Repeated. Once. I looked at Paige. She flinched slightly, still silent. Concerns about what? Mom stepped forward like she was about to give a presentation. About your behavior. the tension you've caused, the stress you bring to what should be a joyful time. Tension? I repeated, stunned. The way you micromanage, your constant criticisms, the way you use money to control things. She looked pointedly at Chloe. Chloe has stepped in graciously to calm the chaos, and frankly, we're all better for it. Chloe shrugged like this was some HR mediation. It's just been smoother without the drama. That's when it hit me. This wasn't a conversation. This was an ambush, and my sister, the one I'd shared bunk beds and broken hearts with, was letting it happen. Paige, I said, my voice breaking. You asked me to be your maid of honor. I've given everything to this wedding. I booked the honeymoon. I paid for the... Mom held up her hand. There it is. The money. Always with the money. I never threw it in anyone's face, I said, now trembling. I just wanted to help. You wanted control, Chloe snapped. You always do. That was when Paige finally spoke. Quietly. It's been really hard, Jules. Every time you get involved, things feel tense. I just want peace. I laughed, bitter and hollow. Peace? So you uninvite me from everything? Replace me? Erase. Me? No one answered. And then Mom delivered the final blow. She straightened her shoulders, folded her hands in front of her, and said it like it was a boardroom decision. We all agreed. You're not welcome at the wedding. Silence. Only the tick of the old clock above the fireplace. I looked around the room, trying to find a single ally. Dad looked away. Chloe smirked. And Paige. Paige looked like she might cry, but she didn't speak. She didn't stop it. She just sat there and let it happen. I nodded slowly. I see. No one told me to leave. They didn't have to. I walked to the door, pulled it open, and paused just long enough to say, one day, you're going to realize what you gave up. And I hope, for your sake, it's not too late to fix it. Then I left. I didn't cry on the drive home. I didn't scream or throw anything either. I just drove. Hands tight on the wheel. Mind blank. Heart shattered. Not from the wedding, not from being replaced, but from knowing, finally, clearly, that my family had never seen me as anything more than useful. Not loved, not cherished. Just convenient. When I walked into my apartment, Tyler stood up from the couch immediately. He took one look at me and said, They did it, didn't they? I nodded. I'm not invited. At all. He hugged me tight, arms solid, voice soft. Then, you know what we have to do. That night I made a list. Not of revenge, not yet. Just truth. Everything I'd paid for, line by line. The honeymoon, $800-900. The quartet, $100. The welcome bags, the calligraphy artist, the custom cake toppers. The engraved champagne flutes, the deposits, the favors, the handwritten vows Paige asked me to help her write, and then used anyway without credit. Over $16,000. Gone. But I still didn't regret any of it. What I regretted was letting them twist the story. So I took it back. I canceled every reservation I made in my name, every booking, every vendor I had personally coordinated. I sent a polite but clear email to the honeymoon resort. Plans have changed. This booking is no longer valid. I called the calligrapher and asked her to stop all work and invoice me for whatever time she'd spent so far. And then I logged into my bank, moved every wedding-related expense to a new card labeled Lesson Learned. Tyler looked over my shoulder and said, Feels good, doesn't it? And strangely, it did. 3 days later, the texts started. First from Paige. Did you cancel the honeymoon? Then again, 2 hours later. Mom said the hotel has no record of any booking. I didn't respond. Then came Mom's rage-fueled voicemails. After everything we've done for you, Julia. This is low, even for you. You promised those things. You're just mad because we wouldn't let you run the wedding. Each one sounded more panicked than the last. Then came the twist I didn't see coming. A call from James, Paige's fiancé. I almost didn't answer, but something in me was curious. Julia. I didn't know. That's what he said, first thing, before I even spoke. About the honeymoon. About the dress appointment. Any of it. Paige thought you canceled, that you were too busy, that you didn't care. I said nothing. He continued. Your mom's been feeding her lies for months. Fake texts, emails. She even told Paige that you didn't want to be involved. I closed my eyes. Of course she did. He hesitated before adding. She also might have told people at our rehearsal dinner that you were going through a breakdown. That stung more than I expected. But James's voice was calm, firm. Look, I'm not calling to ask for anything. I just wanted to tell you. We know. Now. Paige found the messages, the altered ones. She knows the truth. He paused. And she's not okay. That night, Paige showed up at my door, alone. No makeup. Puffy eyes, hair in a loose bun. She looked like the version of her I hadn't seen in months, the real one. She stood there for a full 10 seconds before saying, she lied about everything. I let her in. We sat on the couch, silent at first. Then she pulled out her phone and scrolled through message after message. Dozens of texts Mom had crafted under my name, conversations that never happened, plans that were canceled, insults I'd never written. I couldn't breathe. Paige was crying again. I don't know how I didn't see it. She told me you didn't want to help, that you hated how the wedding was going, that you were jealous. I believed her. Because you trusted her, I whispered. She nodded, voice cracking. I should have trusted you. We talked for hours. She told me Chloe had been feeding Mom details, that the whole thing had been slowly orchestrated, like some ugly reality show no one asked for. She begged me to reconsider. Please, be my maid of honor, like I asked you from the beginning. We'll fix this. I'll fix it. I didn't answer right away. I looked at her, my sister, finally seeing clearly. And I realized something. This story wasn't about a wedding anymore. It was about waking up, about choosing myself. I didn't give Paige an answer that night. Not because I didn't want to, but because for the first time in my life, I needed space to think, not react. The next morning, I brewed coffee like I always do. Same mug, same spot at the kitchen table. But I was different, not broken, not bitter, just awake. I thought about everything. The money, the erasure, the way my sister let silence do the violence, the way my mother weaponized love into control. I looked down at my phone, buzzing again with missed calls from Mom. Then I made a decision, not out of anger, but clarity. I met Paige at a quiet cafe the next day. She'd texted me 3 times already. Can we talk again? I'm so sorry. Whatever you decide, I understand. This time she didn't show up crying. She looked composed and nervous. I slid a folder across the table before saying a word. She opened it, eyes widening. What's this? Everything I contributed to the wedding. Deposits, confirmations, items I planned, ordered, or paid for. I don't need this, she whispered. I do. I leaned forward, my voice steady but kind. I don't need apologies, Paige. I need boundaries, she swallowed, nodding slowly. Okay. You want me in your wedding? I asked. She nodded instantly. Yes, more than anything. Then here's what that means. 1. We reset the roles. I'll be your maid of honor, but I won't be your backup plan. Chloe doesn't get to be the shadow planner anymore. Agreed. 2. Mom doesn't get to make any decisions involving me. That includes where I sit, what I wear, or how I'm introduced. Done. 3. I don't want anything from you. She blinked, confused. Nothing? I just want honesty, and the chance to show up on my terms, with dignity. I want to support you, but not at the cost of losing myself again. For a long moment, Paige said nothing. Then she reached across the table and took my hand. Thank you. I don't deserve it, but thank you. Later that week, Paige did something I didn't expect. She posted a public message on social media, a photo of us from childhood, holding hands in matching Halloween costumes. Sometimes we hurt the people who've always protected us. Sometimes we wake up and realize we've been listening to the wrong voices. This is my sister, Julia. She's not just my maid of honor. She's the reason I know what unconditional love really looks like. The post went viral in our circle. Dozens of mutual friends commented, people who'd heard Mom's twisted versions of me, now seeing the truth. But I didn't post anything in return, because I wasn't playing that game anymore. The next part wasn't about the wedding. It was about reclaiming myself. Tyler and I took a weekend trip to Vermont. No phones, no family. Just quiet trails, hot cider, and watching the leaves turn like the season was teaching me how to change too. I read books. I slept in. I wrote in my journal, not about what happened, but about who I was becoming. And when we got back, there was one more thing I had to do. I met my mother at Aunt Clarice's house, neutral territory. She arrived 15 minutes late, wearing her usual pearls like armor. You look tired, she said. Are you eating enough? Classic. I didn't take the bait. Let's not pretend we're here for tea, Mom. She sat down stiffly, folding her hands. Paige is being dramatic. She's too sensitive. Stop. She blinked. I'd never interrupted her like that before. You don't get to rewrite this. She said nothing. So I continued. You manipulated her, lied, created fake messages, turned my sister, my best friend, into a stranger. And when that didn't work fast enough, you tried to destroy my reputation. Still, she said nothing, but her lips pressed into a thin line. I know why you did it, I added. Control, fear, maybe even jealousy. Excuse me? She finally snapped. I'm not accusing, I'm observing. You've spent your life keeping people orbiting around your approval, and the moment I stopped needing it, I became a threat. Her mouth opened, then closed. No defense. I'm not asking for an apology, I finished. I'm telling you, if you want a relationship with me moving forward, it has to be built on respect, not guilt, not lies, not silence. A long silence passed. Finally, she exhaled. You sound just like your father when he stopped letting me control him too. I stood up. Then I'm in good company. And I walked out. That night, Paige texted, The wedding won't be perfect, but it'll be honest, because you'll be there. And for the first time in a long, long while, I believed that was enough. The morning of the wedding was quiet. No chaos, no drama. No last-minute fights over centerpieces or seating charts, just soft music playing in the bridal suite. A warm latte in my hand, and Paige sitting across from me, still in pajamas, her hair half curled, finally smiling like a bride. She glanced over at me and said quietly, You being here? It makes everything feel right. I nodded, not trusting my voice yet. Because the truth was, I didn't know how I'd feel today. After everything. The betrayal. The ambush. The accusations. The tears. But now that I was here, dressed in a satin mauve gown and holding the emergency kit only a real maid of honor would think to pack, I felt peace. Not because they had changed, but because I had. The ceremony was held at the Westmount Garden Chapel, tucked beneath sprawling willows and blooming lavender. Not the original venue. That had been Mom's call. And Paige had changed it after everything came to light. "I want a clean start," she'd said. "A space that doesn't hold her fingerprints." She was right. The space felt like her. Intimate, elegant, a little wild around the edges. I walked down the aisle ahead of her, heart steady. When I turned to watch her enter, arm in arm, with our father, I caught a glimpse of Mom in the front row, stone-faced, perfect posture, smile as tight as a wound string, but she wasn't the center of anything anymore. Not this time. Paige took her vows with shaky hands and a steady voice. James looked like a man who'd fought to get to this moment, and knew the weight of what he'd earned. And I stood beside my sister, the real her, and felt something I hadn't felt in months. Pride, not just in her, but in me. The reception was simple and beautiful. No over-the-top floral arches. No gold-stamped place cards that screamed Mom's taste. Just laughter, good music, and tables full of people who actually wanted to be there. During dinner, Paige stood to speak. Not James, not Dad, not Mom. Paige. She clinked her glass and said, "I wasn't going to do this. I'm not a big speech person. But there's something I need to say before this night ends." The room hushed. She looked right at me. "Julia, you were the first person I ever loved, and the first one I ever hurt without knowing why. For months, I believed things about you that weren't true, because I was too afraid to see the truth about someone else." Mom shifted in her seat. Paige continued, "You still showed up, with strength, with kindness, with more grace than I ever deserved. You reminded me what real family is. And I want everyone here to know. If this wedding means anything, it's because of you." A pause. A breath. "You are my maid of honor in every sense, and the sister I will always fight to deserve." I didn't cry. Not until I sat back down. Later, while everyone danced under the twinkle lights, I stepped outside for air. Tyler joined me, handing me a champagne flute. "You crushed it, by the way." "Way? You think?" Maid of honor, keeper of boundaries, slayer of narcissistic matriarchs. I'd say that's a win. I laughed for the first time in days. "She's still here, you know," I said, nodding toward the ballroom. "My mom, still watching, still simmering." "Yeah, but now, no one's following her lead anymore." That hit me. She hadn't left. She hadn't apologized. She hadn't changed. But it didn't matter, because we had. 3 months later, life had settled into something beautifully ordinary. Paige and James moved into a 2-bedroom apartment just outside the city. I visited often, sometimes just to drop off leftovers or help hang artwork. The honeymoon still happened. A slightly different trip. Less luxury, but more freedom. Paid for by James and Paige this time. Together. And my mom, still trying to control the narrative. Still emailing relatives her version of events. Still acting confused when boundaries held firm. But now, those stories didn't stick. Not because I fought them, but because I didn't need to anymore. People had seen the truth for themselves. Even Dad, who had finally started to speak up when her behavior crossed lines. Last week, Paige sent me a text out of the blue. "You were never too much. You were just surrounded by people too small to hold you." I stared at it for a while, smiled, and wrote back. Took me a while to believe that. But I do now. If you've ever felt erased, replaced, or betrayed by the people closest to you, I want you to know this. You are not too much. You are not dramatic. You are not the problem. You are someone worthy of being seen, heard, and loved exactly as you are. And sometimes, the family you're born into isn't the one who sees you, but the family you build, the one who shows up. When it counts, is. If this story resonated with you, drop a comment below. Let us know where you're watching from. Hit like, hit subscribe, because you're not alone. And your story? It matters. Thank you for being here. We'll see you in the next one.